Welcome to the Veterinary Marketing Podcast, where it's all about helping your veterinary practice attract, engage, and retain clients. Broadcasting a new podcast every Monday from sunny Southern California, here's your host, Brandon Bashirs.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode number 191 of the Veterinary Marketing Podcast. Hope you're having a wonderful week so far. Today's episode is going to be 10 questions that are going to help you to improve your marketing. It's going to help you to understand your audience better, how they see you, how they find you, how they interact with you, what are the things that they care most about. And these are really the questions that you need to drill down to understand your market better. So I think that it's going to be important, especially if you're doing any kind of paid advertising, or if you're just putting more time and energy and effort into doing content for your practice. It's just going to help you to get more out of it. I would also say that if you understand the answers to these questions, you're going to be able to scale and figure out what your 80-20 is, the 80% where the 20% that's generating 80% of the results. Because most of the time when you go through traffic and things, you'll see that your clients are coming from one channel more so than others. So how can you diversify? How can you improve your marketing and all kinds of things? So it's going to be very helpful for you. Before we begin, I want to mention a few things. First, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe in iTunes, Google Play, wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, also wherever you listen to your podcast, though. So that's one thing. And then the second is, if you're not a member of the Veterinary Marketing Nerds Facebook group, you should totally head on over there and sign up. It's free to join. You go to facebook.com/groups/the Veterinary Marketing Nerds. And the last thing is, too, I had last year started I created a planner. It's available for purchase on Amazon. If you're interested in creating a better plan for yourself, and it's like a calendar basically, and it helps you to identify your avatars, helps you to identify your assets, your lead pages and your lead magnets, and all of these different things that you can then use your planner, which is a calendar, to go out and basically create a plan and fill in all the blanks and stuff. So if that's something that would be interesting to you, go on over to Amazon and search Brandon Bashirs, and you'll see that planner shows up there. All right. Let's jump into today's episode. So there is a quote that says, "The quality of your questions will determine the quality of your life." And I think it was Tim Ferriss who said that, or something. I think so. I probably should have checked that before, but I'm pretty sure it was Tim Ferriss. And he said that because it's totally true. The better the questions that you have in anything, why is this working? Why is this not working? If you're able to understand exactly how people are finding you, where they're coming from, you're able to adjust what's going on there. So these are 10 questions that I think are just very valuable. It's probably not going to be too long of an episode today, but it'll be right to the point here. And you'll hopefully be able to use these questions to improve your marketing. So I think, especially if you're just able to use these questions and maybe train your front desk staff, that when they're chatting, they're typing into the computer or, putting things in, understanding these questions, answers to these questions will be just very helpful for you. So number one question is, how did you find us? And this is obviously very important because it's going to tell you, especially you can break down new clients, you can break down former clients, you can break down returning clients, your best types of clients. How did they find you and where did they hear about you from? I would say breaking this into different categories even to give them options, and just understand all of the different mediums that you're out there on. So I think if you're doing any kind of ads or doing any kind of local ads or flyers or anything, I know a lot of practices still do that, make sure that that's in there as an option. Also Facebook, Instagram, Google search, Yelp search, YouTube, all the different places that you're spending time on all of these networks. It's important to have that readily available. I do think that if you have Google on there, it's important to know, are you doing Google ads? Are you not doing Google ads? Most of the time, customers can't distinguish between ads and just normal Google organic search or map search or things like that. So I think you're going to have to kind of use Google Analytics on the back end to understand where they're coming from. But if you just put Google or Yahoo or Bing, if some people still use that, that'll be helpful to know. Number two is, what was your first impression? I think asking people what your first impression of your practice is going to be important. I think also asking what their first impression of visiting your site or your marketing or your content is going to be helpful too. I think asking employees what their first impression would be important too, because employees have kind of typically, especially if they're working inside the industry, often they will have experience from other practices as well that can help to give you kind of information on that. If you have a really, really nice website and then people are expecting a great experience, and then all of a sudden they come in and the lobby is super run down or something like that, it'll be hard to get somebody to tell you that who's a customer, because they'll probably not be truthful with you. But if you do like a survey that's anonymous or something, you could probably get that kind of info and feedback. So, figuring out, should you use these survey questions as an anonymous survey, or, ask your employees what their first impression was as well, would be very, very helpful. The third question is, what did you end up paying for and buying in the practice? So what is it that is actually driving the visit? What did they end up paying for? You can use your practice management software to understand what they bought, but this will help you to tell what services are coming from which medium and what their opinion is of your practice. Number 4, this one's really, really important. I think it's, what hesitations did you have about becoming a customer client in the practice? And so maybe, I think this is just so important, understanding their main fears, their main objections, their main holdups, so that you can overcome them in your marketing, in your content, or just in your unique selling proposition that you have in your practice. And then just listening, that's just gold. If you can get people to answer honestly about what their hesitations were, then you're going to be able to do a lot more when you're creating marketing for them. Number 5 is describe yourself in one sentence. I think getting people to describe themselves and group themselves, especially if they're your clients and customers, is helpful, because you're going to be able to get better customer avatars out of how people self-describe and what kind of groups and associations they put themselves into. And I think it would be interesting to see, too, how cat owners describe themselves versus dog owners, and what they care about, what their worries are, and all of these different things. So making note of how people describe themselves is very important too, because how they see themselves is the way that you're going to be able to attract more of those people. If you're calling out an audience and you know how they describe themselves, you're going to be able to cut through a lot of the noise, because you'll be talking directly to that person. So it's really, really important. Number 6, why did you choose your practice over competitors? This is very important, because it helps you to define your USP that makes a difference, especially if you're trying to attract more of your ideal clients, whatever that is in your practice. Understanding what your USP is that actually drives people in. I know there's practices nearby that have really limited hours. They'll be open from like 9 to 4 p.m. And if there's a competitor who's open, like, let's say 9 to 7 p.m., those extra hours might be what is really convenient for people coming after work, or, who knows what. But understanding what makes you different, not just different in terms of like hey, this is an extra benefit, but this is actually why people are coming in. They need that extra hours, or they have convenient drop-off, or they just really love the doctor who's putting in the extra effort to bond with the clients, or whatever it is. It could be a ton of things. But understanding that is really, really important, because then you can, if you keep seeing, the convenient drop-off times are the thing that's working, now all of a sudden you have something to make an ad with on Facebook, and you can illuminate the benefit and the differences that you have in your practice. The next one is, what's one thing that has stopped you from going to a practice in the past? Has there been something that you knew you should have taken your pet in, but you didn't go in? What was it? Maybe for cat owners, it's that they didn't want the hassle of taking the cat in. Maybe it was, who knows what it is. But understanding in the past things that have kept you from coming into your practice, and phrasing that in a way that is, why aren't you doing something that you know you should have done? And that's a great barrier to understand, because you can then address it as well. Number 8 is, why did you specifically decide to come into the practice? So is it what was the thing that motivated them to come in? Because it is work to come in. And I think asking them this question is important for sure. If you can do this as a follow-up to an ad campaign that you're running, what was it that caused you to come in? Or what was it that caused you to take us up on this offer? Things like that is going to be important, just to understand what was the main selling proposition that really swayed them and made them come in. It might just be that the need that they had was really high and they saw it, so it was an opportunity. Or it may be that the videos that you made for your practice make your practice look so nice, and I figured I wanted to make a change. And whatever it is, it's important to understand what was it that eventually made them come in eventually and really solidified that decision. It's really interesting when people make buying decisions. There's a point where they have to kind of suspend their disbelief, and so either it's typically an emotional trigger, a logical trigger, a value proposition trigger, something that drives them to take action. Because taking action is not something that's natural. People like to stay in the same state. So what was it that drove them to make that decision to end up buying? Okay, then the next one is number 9, is, what is one thing that you would like to see improved in the practice? And so I think that is important, and it's going to probably be something that you're not going to necessarily want to hear. Anytime you ask for feedback, you have to take it and understand. Just because somebody asks for it, number 1, doesn't mean that it's true necessarily, but at the same time, if it's something that you kind of feel like it hurts, like what if somebody says your lobby is super ugly? You might get defensive about that, but there's probably some truth to it. So, I think asking for that kind of stuff is going to be helpful, but have an open mind with it. And if it hurts your feelings, it might be true. So that's what I find when I notice that when people give me feedback that I don't want to hear, and it's true, I get defensive about it. So are you turning defensive? Because it might be true. Just take it with a grain of salt, right? And then number 10 is, if you could add or sell any new product at your practice, what would one suggestion be? Is there any services or products that you would like us to offer that we're currently not offering? And that gives you ideas for different ways to package things. So maybe people want dog food delivery. Maybe people want, and that might not be feasible for you, but whatever it is, maybe people want home visits or hospice care or laser therapy. I don't know. They could say a bunch of things, but having an open mind to that will help you to serve your customers better. So let's recap really quick. We're going to go through all 10 really quickly here. We have 1, how did you find us? What was your first impression? What did you end up paying for in practice? What were you buying? What hesitations did you have before coming in? Describe yourself in 1 sentence. Why did you choose your practice over others? List 1 thing that has stopped you from coming in the past. Why did you become a client? Specifically, what was the thing that triggered you to purchase? List 1 thing that you would like to see improved about our practice. And then, is there any products or services that you would like to also add into your offerings? So that's it. I think that this is pretty helpful, though. Understanding these things and just surveying your clients is so valuable. The more that you can talk to your clients about why they came to your practice, why they chose you over others, is just going to be it's a game changer for you. If you can take this feedback and then apply it to marketing, you're going to be way better off than your competitors. So I hope that you enjoyed this. Be sure to subscribe in iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, and I will see you on the next episode. Have a good one, everybody.